What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and I thought for fun we would take a look at the rumored Scream 7 plot that's been shared around. There's a couple different pieces to it. A lot of it comes from Critical Overlord, who I want to, give credit, and he was told by his inside source, and that's most of it. There was one other thing I saw on Twitter that kind of added to it, and we'll discuss, whether or not any of the stuff is even real to begin with. But I thought this would be interesting considering, well, we're never getting this version, so why? And I think that's a reasonable excuse to go over major kind of spoiler events of a movie before it comes out. Normally, I'm not really for that, especially when it comes to Scream, but because we're not going to get this, it's not going to happen. If at best, maybe you get half of this, and even then, I think you have to seriously redo some things because now everybody kind of knows. So let's get into it. Again, most of this comes from Critical Overlord, and I like the idea of the first part of this being kind of split stories, that this Scream 7 script would be a lot of it on Sydney and her family, an attack over there, and then you'd have Sam and Tara, an attack over there. And now Critical Overlord says it's in his opinion that these two stories come together at the, final act or the third chapter. Now, I imagine that's true, even though that's not like part of the rumor. You imagine, well, you have two kind of parallel stories, and then eventually you have them kind of meet up. Let's just talk about that for a second, because that's one of the bigger parts to it besides characters and some other things. But I really like that. I think that is a really smart way of handling it. Now, not everything in this, rumored plot thing is necessarily smart, but at least this is. Well, one of the easiest ways is you don't even necessarily need to get her involved so early. And it's like, why couldn't I have thought of that? No, I mean, what do? You keep them separate. And I think we had always kind of thought that, at least to some degree, right? Because one of my theoried kind of openings is an attack on Sydney and the family. And obviously that would be separate. Now, I assumed that would get Sydney to jump in and be part of the greater overall plot, right? But it seems like they were going to keep them kind of in their own lanes. I think that's good. I think that's how you kind of keep legacy over there and respecting them, because they kind of drive their own plot. And then you have Sam and Tara, and they're, obviously they're the leads, at least the main leads, and they drive theirs. And then at some point, you have them kind of connect with the motive or, why this stuff is happening in general, and you have them meet together. Okay, so I really do like that idea. So that's one thing. Second thing, one part of it that he talked about was LA, that at least some part of it, maybe not the entire movie, but some part of it would be in LA, not necessarily Hollywood. That part wasn't specified with him, but that would be the nod to Scream 3. Now, yeah, take it or leave it. For me, it's I don't really care all that much. I am a fan of them experimenting. Did I actually think we were gonna get a Hawaii, a tropical beach kind of expansion pack, for Scream? Not necessarily. Obviously, that idea was kind of thrown out there. There was the winter theme that was heavily taught, which wasn't mentioned, I think, at all from what I saw of his video. So I don't know if it was gonna be set during a certain time of year. I like them trying new stuff. There's something timeless to one location that obviously they've done so many times, but taking 6 and bringing it to New York, a fake New York, right, in Montreal, but also New York, I think they did a really good job, and it just kind of made the movie seem fresh. Hollywood or LA just in general, I guess, would make it seem fresh because you've rarely gone back. You've only gone there one time. So yeah, it would give it a fresh coat of paint, but you'd be retreading that kind of stuff. Now, where would you take it again? A beach is something, making it all Christmassy themed, so all snow. You could put that anywhere and still make it kind of unique versus anything we've seen before. So that's not a massive part. I don't want to spend too much time talking about it. That is just what it is, right? It'd be your Scream 3 nod. He said there'd be 2 killers, which we'll get to. Actually, that's something we have to kind of come back to. So we'll leave it there. 2 killers. Then he goes and he talks about the characters. Now, one thing that I do find funny, whenever the characters are talked about, whether it was rumors or now this is, in their opinion, right, definitive, what the plot is, they list the characters, and Danny is never mentioned. So I don't know if that's something that they had trouble bringing him back or just too many people, but the list of characters is pretty much the list we've all discussed before. So the core 4, and then you'd have Sydney, Mark, Gail, and Kirby. And Dan, again, Danny's just never mentioned there. It's as if he doesn't exist. And, for me, at least when 6 ended, when you think of the 8 returning characters, I actually never included Mark because you just don't know, right, if they could get him. And I always included Danny. So my original 8 returning would have been Danny and not Mark. not out of, dislike of him. I actually really do like that character. But so it should be 9. It should be 9 characters, but it's only 8 characters. But it's not just them. He throws in Leslie Mocker and also Christina Carpenter. So that would explain, considering he said, I believe, that he got this info back in July. It explains all this weird talk about Christina Carpenter as if it's like for sure happening. The audition tape that actually Critical Overlord thought was Christina, and then taking it back because it probably wasn't in the first place. And it's okay, now it makes more sense why everybody was so, just invested, in that happening. And now we know why, right? Because she was going to be a part of it. Now, here's where I want to add in something not from him, but actually from Tristan over on Twitter. And he had said, I think he had said maybe even before Critical Overlord's video came out, so I don't know if it's the same source or just different people, or maybe it's just somebody randomly saying it and he believed, we really don't know, right? But he said that he has heard that Leslie Mocker and Christina Carpenter were the 2 killers. They were the 2. And now, doing some fact checking, right? Where it's like, okay, well, he heard they're the killers. Then Critical Overlord comes out and says who would be in the cast, and they'd be in the cast. So that's one thing. And then he also said there'd be 2 killers. So, obviously it could be anybody. It doesn't necessarily need to be those 2, but those 2 almost parallel rumors do seem to line up. So for the purposes of right now, I want to just talk as if that would actually happen. I do want to say this is where I think a lot of things kind of fall apart, okay? I haven't been a fan, if you watch my past videos, I haven't been a fan of the Christina Carpenter idea, at all. I respect it. If you like it, that's as we always say, right? I respect you, you respect me. That's fine. I don't think we need her. I thought we needed her after 5, right? I've said that time and time again. She was supposed to be in 5. There was the deleted scene, as in they wrote the scene. I don't really like calling it that. They wrote a scene out where Sam and the mom would be together, and then that just was never filmed. They never did it, okay? So almost a rejected concept, maybe. And then 6, they really distanced the 2, right? Sam from the mom. And the whole Gale conversation, I think, really, stuck like the pitchfork there and said, okay, we're done. So I don't need her. I don't need her, and I also really don't need her to be the killer, because I think that's just way, I don't know, I really just don't like that. And that's something I don't think I've said that yet since all this stuff kind of came out. If you're gonna have her in it, fine. What Critical Overlord said is that she would be trying to mend the broken bond between her and Sam. So you'd be mending it, but you'd also literally be the killer going after them. Now what I envision, if you combine the rumors and then do some addition, you have to throw in your own kind of lore, I guess what that would mean would be Leslie through Stu would be going after Sydney. Now that doesn't make sense. I'll talk about that in a second. I don't like that. But you have that, and then you have Christina going after Carpenters and all that jazz. So you have those 2 parallels, and then they come together. Now, one thing that he did talk about in terms of adding one extra layer to the Maureen Prescott stuff, and basically just adding layers to what was going on with Billy when he got with Christina, when he got her pregnant, why all that stuff. That's pretty much what the additional stuff would be, and making it more so that he only jumped from Christina to Sydney when the whole his parents thing happened, and that's why he jumped over. So maybe adding a little bit of depth to that. And then so then if you're Christina, you're doing it to go after Billy, and because you have a resentment for Billy because he left you, you're going after your daughter. I'm not a big fan, and that's me adding it. That's not maybe exactly the reasoning. That reasoning wasn't given, and maybe we'll never know the reasoning, but I do not like it. So while I do really appreciate, and I think it's probably the best for the film, this fictional film we'll never get, to do this dual storyline thing that eventually comes together, I like that. But then it's then you have Stu's older sister going after Sydney, and it's why would she, I'll tell you why I don't like it. The biggest thing is, why would she have waited so long to have done this? That's, to me, that is the biggest thing. I would understand, because it's another family, and that's, I guess, another thing is you'd be repeating now 3 times, at least 3 times, right? Because you had 2 revenge, 6 revenge, 7 revenge, right? Where she's simply doing it because she killed her brother, which is a good reason, and you could see, a twisted mind, serial killer, right? You would understand killing off a relative, you get mad, you go after the person that did that. Okay, understandable, but why wait almost 3 decades? And then also, I get it, but you're gonna do it again. You're gonna do and why? Just because of Stu and just to kind of like do that wink wink nod nod. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't like the same motive to be used over and over and over again. And then from Christina, I'm not a massive fan of her even being it in the first place. I don't really think she's necessary. And then for her to go after, it's like, again, that's almost the Roman thing. Not entirely, not the same, but kind of close enough where, because you didn't know about Roman. You would know about the mom, but then the mom comes into the life and tries to do this thing and tries to, build back the bridge. And then almost, I guess, in a way, almost like what Sydney's dad was being framed for, like the first one, you would be doing it if you actually went through with it in 7. So I'm not a fan of that stuff. So I don't know. Would I have liked to have seen it? Yes, because I think there's a lot of potential there, and generally it's what I kind of wanted. Not all the way through for sure, but I mean, that's the point of movies. 5 had its issues. 6, I really like 6. There's plenty wrong with 6, don't get me wrong, we've talked about it, but I actually really like 6. But 6 was very divided, right? So a lot of these movies are divided. Give me 7 like this, and we would have just seen what would have happened. Now here's the thing, final thing to say. The reason this is important and the reason, to bring all this stuff up and why, like, I'm not too scared, right? Because even if you get Nev and she's in it, right? Which at this point, I'm really not sure. But if you have her and all that jazz, okay. Well, you still have to change. Like, at this point, now that this is, like, fully known, and we also know, reportedly, that, like, the script is completely starting from scratch again, which means... Now, how you could read that, they could take some elements that they've already written, not move them over, like literally just take them, edit, like, and drag them to the next monitor, right? One monitor to the next. Not necessarily that. But look, if it's the same, like Jamie, all them, if it's them writing it, they've already done it, right? So they could look at this new script and they're being forced and they're being said, well, you literally don't have the core 4 anymore. The characters you made, you don't have them, which is insulting, I think. But okay, now make a movie. Oh, and we really are running out of time, so you got to make it fast. Would it be past, or would it be like below them to take what they've already done and just say, like, we're going to recycle some ideas, so we're just going to move it over? I think, and I do believe this, you could see remnants of what, if we even get Scream 7, you could see remnants of the original script in the new one. Now, we won't know until they film and cast and the movie comes out and we see the motive and we see what happened. We won't know till then. But I do think it's possible, with your back against the wall and running out of time and being forced to do all this stuff and limitations, right, that you could maybe say, well, we were thinking about Leslie Mocker, so we're going to still use her. Even though we're restarting the script, we're going to still use her. Which is dangerous because if by miracle a movie actually comes out of this, we get a movie, you might immediately know it's her. If she's announced, even if she's not announced, but she appears in, say, the first like half an hour of the movie, you say, oh, she's probably going to be, and then she probably will be. And we've talked about this before, like that, the whodunit investigative kind of thing that makes Scream so powerful, one of the many that makes Scream a legendary franchise. We haven't gotten that really. 5 and 6 were not well done in terms of, guessing who it was. We predicted it correctly both times pretty easily overall with very little and in some cases no help. So when it comes to 7, I would like it to change. And if you recycle now a character and it's tough because like you maybe want that legacy connection and all this stuff, but now it's like you might have to let that go, because if you put her in the movie, she's most likely going to be the killer, because you probably wouldn't abandon that idea even though the script is restarted. You would just give it slightly different reasons and she'd be behind more stuff, because now it might be her doing everything. Why have Sam and Tara's mom? That'd be disrespectful. Do not have their mom come in because they're not around anymore. So you can't do that. You have to avoid all of the Carpenter stuff now for Scream 7. And again, that's if it even happens at this point. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.